So to mix the material, what we use is a pneumatic drill in this instance. You'll find a lot of us use pneumatic drills on site because there's not appropriate electricity to drive a drill. But the important thing to remember is, why would I have an electric drill to mix material when I've got solvents exposed, which have a VOC, a volatile organic component aspect to them? I don't want to risk a fire, so I use pneumatics. That's why we use a pneumatic drill. In your drill selection, it's important that you have a drill that's sufficient enough in speed to adequately and quickly mix the material. What can happen is you can take too long to mix the material when adding the catalyst, and the material will actually start to cross-link on you in the tin by using a slow agitation. With your mixer, it's important that it's clean. Now this one here's been in paint before, it's been used before. When you finish with the mixer, mixing this material, you'll have a bucket of solvent to put this in the solvent and wash it. So inadvertently, during the course of the day, you'll be mixing more material. What you don't want is this to start skinning up or dried material being on this stem. Primarily because what can happen is, if you leave it to dry, introduce it into new fresh paint, the solvents in the paint will soften this, and you'll start having blocks or coagulation material going through your suction hose and into the bottom of your pump. That not only stop the pump from actuating, but also cause blocks in the tip that's on the end of the gun. So ensure that this is clean. Now, because this has had paint on it before, what I have to make sure is, will this solvent for this material, this acrylic polyurethane, soften the existing paint? It's important to understand that you know what's on there if you decide or elect to use one that's already got paint on it. So basically what I'm saying to you is, this really is unacceptable. You must clean them each time you use them to ensure that they're either totally paint free or quickly blast it to ensure there's no loose paint or existing remnants of the paint that you've used previously. So does the drill work? Because it's pneumatic, we hold it in an appropriate way so that this chuck doesn't grab the gloves. So with your hand back, depress the trigger. Yes, it spins freely. Periodically you'll need to put some lubrication in the bottom of this. We do that by means of a few drops of oil in the bottom of the air connection. And when I say a few drops, I mean that. I don't mean to tip copious amounts of oil in there, because the lubricant will exhaust out here and go all over your paint. So a few drops is more than adequate periodically. Ensure that this is nice and tight and can't slip off and doesn't come undone. Ensure that when you depress the trigger that your hands are free from the chuck itself so that you don't sustain an injury. So now that we have our cardboard out to ensure that we don't make a mess, because the whole idea here is to get this paint through this pump on that wall without leaving remnants of paint everywhere. So you have, in this instance, a catalyst, which we remove the lid and exposes the catalyst, which is a clear liquid, which is the part B of this. Then we have part A, which is the paint and the pigment and the colour and everything we want within that tin. So what I need to do is put that catalyst in this tin of blue paint. Also, what I have established is that the pump does work, so I'm fine to do that. But be mindful, today we've got high temperatures, so when I put that catalyst in there, I know that my pot life for this particular product is dramatically reduced due to the ambient temperatures that we're currently experiencing. So, is all of that going to fit in that tin? Well, because this it's a blue and it's been tinted from a base, you can see that I'm really going to struggle to put all of this catalyst in that tin. So what I will have is a clean tin or bucket to make sure that I can appropriate all of this catalyst for that A base. So if I tip that in there like so, and it's quite full, ensure that you get all the catalyst out with your mixer. So what's going to happen when I mix that in there is that it's going to exceed or spin over the top of the tin. So what you can do with that mixer, instead of having it spinning full speed, pinch the air hose, exhaust the pump or the drill itself, put it in there slowly. Now what I'll do is I'm going to just mix this slowly to ensure that I get a thorough mix of A and B. Now that I've started the mix, I want to make sure that I get all of it mixed thoroughly. So now what I'll do is I'll appropriate this so it sits there, and this is called boxing, where I tip this contents into a bucket and then mix it thoroughly with a little bit more speed to ensure that I have a good and thorough mix. So you see, in a bigger container I can contain the splash. So how long do I mix it? You have to make sure that you have got all of the catalyst thoroughly mixed through the product. So now that I've done that, what I can do is what I mentioned before is boxing, is place the product back in the tin. And that ensures that I have a thorough mix of material. So with that back in the tin, just give that a quick spin again. So crimp the hose. Oh, great. Crimp the hose. Just stir the material one more time. So yes, of course, I've spilt some material. Does it happen? Of course it happens. Why did I put the cardboard down? In case it did happen. So now I have some Interthane 990 mixed up, ready to go. I know the pump works, and the thinners that I've used there is the appropriate thinners for this type of paint. Now say for example I'd use gum wash to flush that out, I'd have to make sure that I put Interthane 990 solvent through the pump, then put that into the paint itself. Gum wash is good to clean the machine, but you don't want gum wash in a top coat polyurethane. So now what I can do is I can remove this from the solvent and ensure that it's all run out. And make sure that when I put it back in the material that no solvent runs back from the hose into the paint.